What Happens in the Woods is a true crime podcast. We discuss events that are often violent in nature. Listeners' discretion is advised.
We also find that poisoners are very intelligent, certainly more so than the typical brute-like clubbing of an individual is a sophistication of the weapon's delivery. We find they're very artistic. By artistic, I don't mean they paint pretty pictures, but I mean that they can design almost something like a play.
My wife is going into some kind of convulsion.
Second Avenue South.
Yes, 1111, 2nd Avenue South, number 2.
Has she ever had a
No,
seizure
she's never
before?
had a problem before.
How old is she?
She's 28. She called me from the other room, and her mouth is foaming.
Take a deep breath. You need to be calm for your wife, okay?
Yes, I'm calm.
Okay. Does she use drugs or on any medication of any kind?
She just took a Sudafed.
What do we know about people who choose poison as their method for murder? Think back through every story you've ever been told, fairy tale you've read, or movie you've seen. Oftentimes, poison is portrayed as a woman's choice when taking a life. It's cunning, secretive, completely impersonal, or extremely passionate. A strong weapon for the so-called weaker sex. If done correctly, it can be hard to trace. If not done correctly, well, we all know how that story ends for those who are caught. But what if a man uses poison? There are examples of men who have done this throughout history. Usually they consider themselves intellectually above everyday Joe. In this episode, we're going to discuss one such man who used the 1982 Tylenol poisonings and its copycat Excedrin poisonings as examples of how to commit murder. This is True Crime Podcast, What Happens in the Woods, with your hosts, Jess and Bryce. Let's get started.
We're back for the continuation of the first episode of the season. And first off, we have somebody to introduce. So we have a guest with us. My brother Colin is visiting from California.
Hi.
We're making him take part and participate.
Well, I really appreciate it. It's fun to be here.
Even though you don't listen to the podcast. And yes, I am calling you out.
Okay, so I totally was on my 15-hour drive up here, but then somebody was chopping up a body, and I was like, I gotta go.
Yeah, it's not for everybody. It's fine. I forgive you. It's fine.
As long as you forgive me, big sister.
Yes. I love how you threw that big sister in there. Thank you. Yes, I am the oldest. All right. And before we get too far into the episode, we have something important to address. So there was some concern for Bryce's well-being after the last episode. I want to confirm he is alive and well. He's here. Say hi.
No.
He's fine. There is no harm come to him after his shenanigans. And I guess we just should have explained better that I don't like surprises. I
send help.
Absolutely hate surprises. You're fine. Bryce finds it hysterical to irritate me.
Yes.
So,
that's what I was hired for.
Whatever.
Grammy approved my position as annoying my wife.
My grandmother never would have done that.
She did.
You lie.
I can confirm this.
Shut up. I don't need help. So... yes, I hate surprises, and usually his surprises are sweet and very thoughtful.
And this one wasn't?
No. It was. So this is just me being bitchy. I cannot help it, and I apologize. There's no reason for it. I always appreciate what you do. I have trouble getting to that point. It's kind of painful. So we're good. It's fine.
Go to sleep, crazy lady.
Okay.
So let's chat about that NBA card. A few people on social media said they knew what the story was with it. Can you finally release that information?
Surprisingly, a lot of people know what is on that card. Like even we had our friends come up last weekend, Brian and Aaron and Fam, and he posted it on social media, and a lot of people knew. He cheated. My brother knew what it was. It's cheating, though.
I felt stupid. So I know Colin's looking at us like, I don't know what the hell you guys are talking about.
I mean, okay, so someone did show me. I don't remember if it was Mara or Olivia, but someone showed me, and I was like, who is that? No, I had no idea.
No, it wasn't more who the player was, but what was in the background.
Right.
Yeah,
he didn't.
Brothers.
Menendez.
If people don't remember the Mark Jackson card, the Menendez brothers were on that card. And of course, everyone knows that they were famous in California for killing their parents.
Right.
And they did get convicted of it, and they were sent to prison.
Yeah, life in prison. I felt kind of stupid because literally as soon as we stopped recording the last episode, I pick up the card and I'm looking at it and I'm just trying to scrutinize it and learn its secrets. And if I had not been so irritated by this surprise, I would have recognized there they were sitting in courtside right behind this player, living life to the fullest. Cool. So that's a really good find, honey. I didn't know about that. That case probably is right up there with like John Benet Ramsey for me as far as what had really spiked my interest in true crime. So good find there. You did great.
Did you hear that?
Yes,
there's witnesses. I said good job.
Yes.
I don't like surprises, so don't do that.
Okay. I can't promise there won't be any more.
There's always going to be a surprise. That's just the nature of how you roll. So
yes,
and my part in that is to be irritated.
Yeah.
Initially,
Jessica, you've been irritated since birth.
Probably. Yeah.
My mother can confirm that. I can confirm that. I just want y'all to know.
I'm bitchy. It's fine.
But we still love you.
Oh, thanks. Big giveaway announcement as well. So stay tuned to the end of the episode when we announce the winner. We're ready to go on that, but hold on.
They told me I could be Vanna White. So.
Yes, Colin gets to be Vanna White.
Yeah.
All right. So as I mentioned in our last episode, I guess I should ask any updates, Bryce.
No.
Okay.
I did the card. We'll be on Discord.
Okay.
After the episode, 8:00.
Okay.
September 18th, 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time.
Yes. Okay. That's all you got?
Yes.
Okay.
All
right. So this is going to be part 2 of what we discussed in our last episode. We were discussing a copycat to the 1982 Tylenol murders. The first copycat was Stella Nickel from Auburn, Washington. This lovely woman was convicted of murdering her husband, Bruce Nickel, and a completely random stranger, Sue Snow, by cyanide-laced extra-strength Excedrin. If you missed that story, go back, listen to it. We'll link it in the description as well. But let's go further back and go over the original crime that started this all before we get into the second copycat.
All right.
Okay. So I mentioned the 1982 murders briefly. There's kind of a little bit of more information. So the breakdown that led to the events of 7 deaths in Chicago is what we're kind of going to go over. The first deaths were reported on September 29th, 1982. No one had a clue what had caused them at the time. It's really sad because the first victim was a 12-year-old young lady. Yeah.
Really?
Really sad. Yeah. Then the next series of victims, 3 of them were family members that took pills from the same bottle. So gentleman passed away, his brother and sister-in-law. Of course, when the gentleman passed away, they didn't know from what. Mm-hmm. Gentleman, his brother and sister-in-law took pills from the same bottle that he did and passed away as well. So that family grieved for 3 people.
So there's 3 people that took it and 3 people died.
Yes.
Jesus.
Did they test the bottle? Was the whole bottle bad? Or?
Yeah. So this person didn't leave like an error of margin for anybody to not take it.
So no algae destroyer.
No, it was not algae destroyer. So that's the first 4 victims. And after that, there was 3 more victims before they figured out that it was from Tylenol and that they were laced with cyanide. It was confirmed eventually all 7 of those victims had taken the extra strength Tylenol prior to the deaths. Tests on the pills would confirm that the deaths were caused by cyanide, again, over the amount of a lethal dose. There was just no mistaking that whoever did this wanted to kill people, didn't care how many.
So it wasn't gel caps or it wasn't capsules, they were pills?
It was the capsules.
Oh, the capsules.
Yeah, it was the pull-apart capsules.
So they just pulled that shit apart.
Right. So you could twist them apart. It's super easy.
Yeah.
You just would twist them apart kind of, and then you would grind up cyanide, mix it with the medication, pour it right back down into the capsule, twist it back on, and close the bottle like nothing happened. Because at those days, there was no, the seal on top. There wasn't any plastic any coating, anything. It was just... I think they had just barely gotten the, child-proof lids out.
Wow.
Even that wasn't common. But there was nothing stopping these people from tampering with it. There was just nothing stopping anybody from fucking with this shit.
What a psychopath.
Right. Really. So the deaths cost Johnson & Johnson, the maker of Tylenol, millions of dollars to recall. They did a nationwide recall to get the products off the shelf. They are actually credited with acting quickly and responsibly in the interest of the public and not their own, which in any day and age for a large corporation business to say it doesn't matter what it costs us, we're going to get all these pills back and we don't want any more deaths and we're going to figure this out. It's kind of incredible, honestly. Good for them. And all of that was great. They still had no idea who had done this, for what purpose. There were several attempts to find the responsible party, and there were a few theories on who it was. One that I read stated it could have been a disgruntled Johnson & Johnson employee, although the production plants were cleared of any possible contamination. So it definitely was not somebody at the plant doing this or any chance of, accidental exposure to the Tylenol.
Yeah.
Another odd theory was that it was the work of the Unabomber, Ted Kaczynski.
Are you serious?
Yeah. So authorities actually asked him for a DNA sample in 2011. So, 20 years, 30 years. I can't find anywhere if that led them to a resolution. There's still nobody's been caught for this, and they haven't accredited to him. He denied ever having possessed cyanide. So after him, there are also 3 suspects who were investigated. Eventually, they got cleared of the tampering as well. The strongest suspect of the crimes was James William Lewis, who actually ended up in the weird twist. He was convicted of extortion. He sent a letter to Johnson & Johnson claiming that if they paid him $1 million, that the killings would stop.
Oh.
So you would think if he's the person writing that letter extorting money, that he's responsible. They could not link him to the crimes. So he just thought he was going to get rich off of it.
Oh.
I bet you that he was the cover.
He might have been. It's just a really weird... He and his wife weren't living in the Chicago area at that time, so it just kind of got ruled out that he wasn't really a suspect.
Or even near there? Did they say
they were
where
in New
lived?
York.
Oh, yeah.
They lived in New York.
It's
not exactly close, no. But somebody could do it.
It's like a 2-hour plane ride.
He could have been traveling though, and done that. So it wouldn't necessarily need to be somebody who lived in the area. All you got to do is place these on different store shelves and wait for somebody to pick that one, and it all comes out.
Yeah.
So they didn't have enough evidence to connect him to the crime. They traced his fingerprints to, the letter sent, but couldn't link him to the poisonings. A Boston news outlet claims that the Department of Justice concluded Lewis was responsible for the poisonings, despite the fact that they didn't have enough evidence to charge him. He served time for the extortion charges, and he also gave the FBI a DNA sample. Again, I don't know. It didn't amount to anything because he wasn't charged with that crime. He later claimed that he was not responsible for the killings. And like I said, to this day, just nobody's been charged. We may never know what happened. It's so many years removed now.
Yeah.
How do you go back and
well,
trace
they
that?
must have DNA evidence.
They must have if they asked for his.
Or they asked for the Ted Kaczynski.
And Ted Kaczynski's. Yeah, it's crazy. So
well, I'm hopeful because of all that DNA advancement, especially with the Golden State Killer. I'm very hopeful that they'll catch someone.
Yeah, you never know. It could happen.
Yeah.
So all in all, 31 million bottles were recalled of Tylenol. That's a lot for 1980s. That's a lot. A total of 8 contaminated bottles were found, and just as Stella Nickell had done in 1986, it's presumed the killer purchased bottles of Tylenol and then added the cyanide to them, replaced the bottles to store shelves, and just anybody picked them up. It was the start of laws in legislature that would require tamper-proof packaging for over-the-counter medication. It also made tampering a federal crime. And as we know, Stella Nickell was the first person to be convicted of those types of charges.
Yeah.
So now both the 1982 deaths and Bruce and Sue deaths are, we've talked about both of those. They caused millions of dollars worth of loss for the makers of Tylenol and Excedrin. And you can imagine it was talked about for a long time, something like that.
Yeah.
So much so that in early 1991, Reader's Digest, good old Reader's Digest, came out with an article that talked about how Stella Nickell was caught, about Sue and Bruce's deaths, and it was also a great outline for someone who wanted to take notes on how to plan a poisoning murder. And 29-year-old Joseph Melling was paying close attention.
God damn it. Reader's Digest.
Damn you, Reader's Digest.
Fuck the anarchist cookbook. Just read Reader's Digest.
I mean, honestly. So now we know about Tylenol in 1982. We know about Excedrin in 1986. Let's learn about the Sudafed poisonings of 91 and the man convicted of them, Joseph Melling, and his wife Jennifer from Tumwater, Washington. All right, so Joseph and Jennifer were married a few years before this happened. When we get to 1991, from all accounts, it was not a fucking happy relationship. There were a few indications that Joseph may have been an abusive husband. Basically, he was unhappy and he wasn't going to let Jennifer be happy. They fought all the time about, the usual things, money, spending, jobs, lifestyle, just about everything that a normal married couple would argue about. It happens.
Yeah.
In fact, so December 1990, just weeks before the poisonings happened, Jennifer actually called the police because she was afraid that Joseph was going to hurt her. And when officers arrived, she claimed that Joseph had held her arms behind her back and tried to push her face into the kitchen cabinet. And she was afraid because he was being
very aggressive.
Very aggressive. He apparently told officers that she was just a distraught woman, quote unquote, and not to pay her any attention, which really pisses me off because the fact that you have the balls to speak for your wife who's called the police should have been indication number one that you're a dick.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And indication number two that you probably did what she accused you of doing.
Yeah.
Because now you won't let her speak. There again, 1991. I don't know about up here, but I know, where I was in California at that time, domestic abuse was still, kind of pushed to the side. Like,
it was behind closed doors.
Right.
Nobody talked about it.
Right. I mean, the police would show up, obviously. If there was clear indication, they would take somebody with them, but it usually didn't get resolved.
No.
Yeah. So Jennifer ends up not pressing charges. She ends up saying she didn't believe that she was assaulted. So go ahead and I'm fine. Go ahead and go. I absolutely believe that she was intimidated, and he probably made her feel like the situation was her fault. Mm-hmm. And she didn't want to occur any more wrath is probably what happened, as per usual in cases like that. So there's a pattern here that we've talked about in other cases. Joseph had habits of spending large amounts of money on expensive hobbies, computers, photography equipment, stage makeup, and the good old favorite up here, strippers, strip clubs.
Oh.
Yeah. Loved him some strip clubs. Jennifer worked as many as 3 jobs at a time in order to support his habits. Not that sound familiar in any way?
No.
What are you talking about? What do you mean that doesn't sound familiar? We just are like one of our cases in the first season.
Which one is that?
Susan Powell.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my Jesus Lord. Do you even pay attention?
Yeah.
Who's Susan?
Susan Powell was our 3rd episode.
Oh, maybe I did watch that one. No, I think I started and I stopped because...
Because what? She disappeared. There's no violence.
Yeah, there's no violence.
I think it made me depressed.
Oh, okay.
That was a rough
yeah,
time.
it's depressing because he ends up...
Yeah,
they don't find her. They've not found her.
As Celine Dion would say, it's all coming back to me now.
Okay. Yeah, but Josh Powell was very abusive, and it really reminded me of
that case. Yeah.
That case, yeah. So let's jump to the events that kicked off another nationwide panic and recall of millions of over-the-counter pills. What you heard at the beginning of the show was a 911 call that Joseph Mailing made just after his wife had collapsed at their home the night of February 2nd, 1991. They had been getting ready for bed, going through their just nightly routine, and Joseph tells Jennifer that she needs to take a Sudafed to help her stuffy nose because, goddammit, her snoring keeps him up and he needs some fucking sleep. So go take the pill and I'm going to bed.
Why, she's the one that works 3 jobs.
Right. I was like, bitch, you need to go sleep on the couch, like, or you need to get earbuds or something to plug. Yeah.
Yes, use your wife's money to go fix your problem.
Right. It's just typical of somebody who's in a aggressive relationship where, she's snoring. Maybe she's extra tired. Maybe she's sick. Maybe she needs medical attention, but it's affecting your sleep. So goddamn it, she better do something about it. Just kind of a dick move, but maybe he was trying to be helpful. I doubt it. So she kind of plays him off at first, and then he won't let it go. So she goes and takes this stupid Sudafed. It's a capsule. By this time, like, tamper-proof packaging had somewhat evolved, but it was still capsules, but they were in those sheets. They're called blister packs, where you push the pill through the back of the tin
foil
lining. It was some sort of tamper-proof, but it wasn't 100% foolproof.
Yeah.
There is no 100% foolproof, honestly. Except now there are no capsules. They don't sell those over the counter at all in any case. So she takes the stupid capsule. By this time, the type of Sudafed that she took looked like, the regular pill. She had no indication that it was different. So she takes it. After she collapses, it's just minutes after she collapses, Mailing calls 911 and the EMTs get to her pretty quickly. They rush her to the hospital for what they're thinking is possible diabetic ketoacidosis, but their efforts are not helping her. Her condition is just getting worse and worse as they're trying to work on her. And what is interesting is during the trial of all this, the doctors treating Jennifer come and testify, of course. They claim that Joseph spoke up and asked, could it be something toxic? And when the doctors still don't pinpoint an answer, he offers to the doctor, maybe it's cyanide. It's a weird thing to mention.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but what a dumbass. Why would you?
There's a reason why he did that. So the doctor orders Jennifer's stomach to be pumped in a last-ditch effort, basically. Can't think of anything else, so they're like, okay, well, let's pump her stomach. Whatever it is, let's get it out of her.
Yeah.
So while Jennifer is in critical condition, when they realize it's cyanide poisoning and they can treat it, they actually save her life.
Oh.
I didn't even know that was reversible.
She doesn't die. So because they pumped her stomach and got it out of her system, She lives. She does go into a coma for a couple of days, which, I mean, is serious. There are lasting effects to this, but she's not dead. So where exactly does the murder come into play? And what is the motive behind them? Well, I'm going to tell you after this break. So when doctors save Jennifer Mayling's life, her husband knows that he has to get smart. He knows he's going to be a suspect. And I mean, it's, let's just be honest, it's always the husband, right? If it's not the wife, it's the husband. What? So, sorry to tell you, honey, there is no butler.
Okay.
Right.
I'm going to hire one.
Okay. I'm not going to argue with you. As long as they cook and clean, I'm good.
All right.
So Jennifer's not dead. In fact, doctors predict a full recovery eventually when she awakens from the coma. While she is in the coma, Joseph calls in her family and authorities that have been questioning him. He claims he knows he's going to be the prime suspect, and he claims there won't be any proof. There's no motive, and he knows this for sure because her life insurance policy doesn't include a payout for accidental death. And he should know this because he works for Prudential, which is the life insurance company that her policy is through.
Oh, so he does work.
He works for the insurance company.
Oh.
Right.
Yeah, he has one job. It just...
Right.
His wife works 17 jobs.
Right. Yeah. So he claims he's going to be just as much of an injured party in all this as Jennifer is. And poor him, because all this blame is going to come his way. And it's so unfounded.
You can't see it, but I rolled my eyes.
So now he has to back this up somehow. And we know with Stella Nickel, she chose to throw authorities off of her trail by adding more deaths to the tally.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter who dies, as long as somebody dies, and they can say it's from accidental cyanide poisoning. So unfortunately, that is exactly what happens. The first death is that of 40-year-old Kathleen Daniker of Tacoma. She passed away on February 11th, 1991. The second is 44-year-old Stanley McWhorter on the 18th, and he was from Lacey, Washington. So both were found to have been poisoned by cyanide. Eventually, it's learned that both had taken 12-hour Sudafed prior to their deaths. What is incredibly sad is that most of the research that I found, those two victims are only mentioned in passing.
Oh.
Yeah. There's no more than a paragraph in articles. And I read newspaper articles from that time. I read other articles online. I read other stories. I watched a couple of short documentary things, barely mentioned. And this is the aspect of true crime that I think drives me the most insane, is that the criminal gets the voice.
Yeah.
The victims don't always get a voice. And their families are not always, they don't always want to be portrayed or have that information out there.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're not asked. And, the true crime shows, podcasts, people will take that information, talk about the victims, but not actually go into the victims' lives or, give any clear information about them.
Yeah.
That's why I always have a hard time watching those documentaries, because a lot of them almost like fantasize or put these killers on a platform, and it just makes me uncomfortable.
Yeah, it's like romanticizing crime. And that's exactly why I won't talk about Ted Bundy. Ted Bundy is probably the most well-known person from Washington. I will not give him any more than he's already, limelight that he's already gotten. He is dead and gone and paid for his crimes. We should not be romanticizing him in any way. And I was really, when the documentary that came out at the beginning of this year about him, it wasn't about him necessarily. It was about the victims and how their families and friends, went on with their lives, and about how those victims, what their contributions could have been to the world. But because of him, it was cut short. also talked about how his longtime girlfriend and her daughter were affected, which sometimes she gets talked about more in things that I've seen and read and watched. But it just, to me, you don't romanticize this guy. It's sick. It's sickening.
I mean, didn't they have a movie with Zac Efron playing him or something?
Right.
Like, okay, why would you have Zac Efron play him?
Yeah.
You know, I just, like, that's fine and all dandy and stuff, but why are you giving these horrible people a platform?
Right.
It just,
Yeah, it definitely is. It's sad. So I wanted to find out some more information about the victims. What I finally was able to find out was on a show called Motives and Murders. I greatly appreciated that they were able to speak to the victims' families and also Jennifer, and they gave a little bit of background into the victims' lives. So Kathleen was a mom of 3 teenage boys. She was very active in her church. She was well loved by family and friends. She passed away just one day after her and her husband had renewed their wedding vows, their marriage vows. They had been separated for a year and were celebrating coming back together and renewed their vows. And the next morning she woke up not feeling the best, took a Sudafed, and she was found by her husband collapsed on the bathroom floor. Of course, they tried to rush her to the hospital, but by that time she was comatose, and by the next day she was gone. And it's devastating. It's absolutely devastating that, you know, her life was finally coming together, and this asshole decided to go out and play God.
Yeah.
And ruin that. When her routine labs came back after, like a few days after her death, the medical examiner recognized the signs that something was odd with her, like, labs that came back. He had studied the Excedrin deaths in 1986 and was able to put 2 and 2 together, and he knew that testing for cyanide was needed because it is not a routine test. So when they do autopsies, when they do...
so it's not something that, they would just do... Oh.
No, it's not.
So it's an extra test.
It's an extra test, and it's an easy test. I don't know if that has changed recently, but I know during this time period of between the 80s and 90s, all of these deaths, not a routine thing that happens after somebody passes away mysteriously.
Yeah.
I would just hope that now, like, a mysterious death, they're like, okay, well, let's cover the bases.
I mean, yeah, kind of. Especially if there are there's some signs that are pretty easy to tell. Obviously, this medical examiner was able to get, see that in her lab work that came back. So after he saw that, they tested for cyanide, and it was absolutely positive. So authorities gathered all of the meds in her house and started testing them. They don't find a trace of poison in them at all. And they think for a second, this is not right then.
Yeah.
What they did find, and they were lucky to have found this, is that the code number that is listed on the blister pack does not match the code number that's listed on the cardboard box of the medication.
Oh.
Which is indicative that somebody has pulled out,
tampered with,
right? Somebody has pulled out the blister pack that matched that box, and it's someplace else. So with that info, they start looking into other cases and realize that Jennifer Mailing had been poisoned with cyanide and that she had also taken Sudafed just before being brought to the hospital. Her blister pack of Sudafed is also looked at and tested. They realize that it has the same number code on it that doesn't match her box, but the code matches Kathleen's code.
Oh.
So the 2 blister packs have the same code.
Yeah.
Meaning that they came from a 20-pack and were put into 10-pack boxes. Oh. Right. So it was 2 sheets of the blister packaging that were separated and put into 2 separate boxes.
Okay.
So from that information, they're like, well, this is one person. Yeah. One person accessed both of these and put them in separate boxes. So from there, the FDA is called in. David Kessler, who had been in his first week on the job as the new FDA commissioner at that time, got a call late one Saturday in March. He's filled in on the poisonings in Washington, and immediately he's like, we have to recall. We have to. So they were able to catch the 10 p.m. news that night and started blasting the recall info everywhere. And that is how the wife of Stanley McWhorter, the third victim in all of this, is tied to this case. So just 2 weeks after his death, his wife got a call from a family friend saying, hey, turn on the news. There's some shit about the Sudafed recall on there, and check the
bottles.
Box. Yeah. And when she's, watching this, her heart just sank because she knows that he took a Sudafed, Stanley did, right before he passed away. So she calls the medical examiner's office. They confirm that the code from the pack matches the code on the recall. From there, they're able to confirm with tests that the father of two and Vietnam vet was killed by cyanide poisoning. So again, he didn't know.
He survived Vietnam, but then
Right.
succumbed to poisoning.
Right.
I mean, it was without recall, they would have missed that.
They would have missed that.
Wow.
Yeah, without her paying attention, essentially. And yeah, without the recall. If they hadn't been able to put the other clues together for the first two, they wouldn't have known about him. So from there, we go to the recall starts in Washington State. And then it ends up going nationwide. Over 1 million boxes are recalled. A total of 6 would be found to have been tampered with, all only found in Washington. So definitely not a case of it being something at the manufacturers.
Yeah.
It's definitely tampering. One of those boxes, of course, we know the 3 made it to the victims. One of those boxes was still on a store shelf, so anybody could have picked it up.
Shit.
2 were turned in by customers who had purchased them. One lady opened hers up and realized that one of the tablets looked just a little bit different than the other ones.
Yeah.
So she returned it. Can you imagine if she hadn't been paying attention?
I mean, that was going to be my question is how did these people not realize that
So
these were tampered with? Because
Right.
you can't just replace foil like that, can you?
no. So what he had done is he had taken a razor blade and cut around the edge just slightly so that he could get the pill out, and then very carefully was able to smooth that out so that it looked like it was still intact.
Jeez.
Very methodical, very carefully. That's how this was able to get done.
Wow.
Right. But if you're not paying attention, it's easy enough to just, you're not feeling good, pull out a pack, you push it through. Most of the time, you don't look at the back. You just look at the front and you push the pill through into your hand.
Yeah. Now I'm going to check everything. Damn it.
Well, nowadays, though, most of them have gone to that where you have to separate the section that has the pill in it, and you have to actually forcefully peel back.
Yeah.
You can't just push through.
Yeah.
Most of those, I don't know that they still don't make just the foil backed blister packs, but I know that most of them you have to peel that little section off.
I mean, one time I got the anti-traveling nausea stuff, and it didn't have all that. It was just the foil bag.
Oh, yeah.
So I
It
guess.
could. Yeah, but was it a capsule or was it just a pill?
I think it was just a pill.
Yeah, so if it's a pill, there's really no way.
Yeah.
You'd have to dip it in something for you to change to add a chemical to it.
Yeah.
You'd have to dip it in something, which would probably leave a trace.
Oh,
You know what I mean?
Look different.
Look different enough that you'd be like, what the fuck is this? So yeah, so she was lucky enough she didn't take any. The other person that turned hers in actually took 6 out of the 10 pills. And she had not made it to the one that was tampered with.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
That's just
So
the grace of
she,
God.
very lucky to have not taken that. If she had started, because he had messed with the upper left of each pack, if she hadn't started on the opposite side, she would have been fucked.
Oh my God.
The first or second time that she took those pills. So now that they have confirmed product tampering with all this, the FBI is called in because this is now a federal crime due to, thanks to good old Stella Nickel. So let's go back to Jennifer Mailing. When she leaves the hospital, she doesn't go right home. with her husband to recover. She actually goes to her parents' house in Vancouver to recover.
Smart.
Right. It's also kind of strange because why wouldn't you go home to your husband, your home, and recover, right? Authorities kind of think it's odd. She actually files for divorce from Joseph. At one point, Joseph is taken involuntarily to a mental health hospital in Olympia after a few employees at his work find notes where he threatened to kill himself.
Oh.
All throughout this, he's pretty much the main suspect. That I'm sure didn't help, threatening to kill yourself. The FBI questioned Joseph a few times. They searched the couple's house. They don't find a whole lot. They're able to get approval to bug the phone in the residence.
Yeah.
But Joseph suspects that they've done that, and he gives up no info. He even, his ego is so large. At one point, they start saying shit. He starts if the FBI have bugged me, they're going to want this information. He starts egging them on. So they don't get anything from that. He is overheard threatening his wife and family not to cooperate with the feds. And at one point, he claims to Jennifer that she is essentially, if she gives information, she, quote unquote, is sleeping with the enemy, meaning the feds.
Yeah.
So he's pretty much effectively threatened everybody. Don't fucking talk. Don't, talk out of turn. The feds are listening, and we know they're listening. So shut your fucking mouths. Essentially. So there's just nothing concrete, and they know that. They really feel like it's him. Then, in a surprise twist, Jennifer, in the fall of 1991, she cancels the divorce and she goes back to him.
Ew.
Right. She moves back in. She just doesn't want to believe that he could have anything to do with this, and she stands by him.
Oh, okay.
So finally, there's a lead where Joseph's uncle comes forward with info that he had multiple conversations with Joseph in regards to him wanting to get rid of his wife. Soon after that, authorities overhear a conversation in March of 1992 that they were able to catch because when the order for the phone being tapped ran out, then feds were actually able to extend it to bugging the house.
Yeah.
Oh.
And partly due because of his uncle. So they said, okay, he knows obviously about the taps. His uncle's come forward, said there's evidence that we need to get. So let's try to tap the house, and a judge approves it. So they get a tap in the house. They get a bug in the house. It ends up being the best clue. He is in a conversation with his dad. I guess his dad had come over, and he says he's worried that FBI agents are going to find out that he, quote unquote, accidentally wandered into a store in Kent, Washington, where cyanide is sold. How do you fucking accidentally?
Yeah.
Right.
Whoops, I stumbled.
Right. Oh, I'm so lost. I had no idea this was a chemical company.
Let me just head up the chemical superstore.
Right. The only one in Kent. It's fine. He claims he's worried because there's going to be fingerprints that will connect him there. Okay, yeah. You're touching shit.
And so does a receipt.
Right. So from there, it's kind of all downhill for him. It's easy enough for the FBI to find that store in Kent. It's called Emerald City Chemical Co. You can't go down to your local 7-Eleven and be like, hey, I need a pound of cyanide, hand it over.
Right.
There's only certain few places where this is sold, and anywhere, let alone in Seattle. I think there's only 2. He is positively ID'd by an employee there that he absolutely was there back in January on the 11th in 1991. The name he signed, however, was not his own, but the FBI gets him to come in, give them handwriting samples, and it matches the ledger of the person that bought the cyanide.
Okay.
So they confirm that is his handwriting.
Yeah.
What he had done, and it was a dead giveaway, was they asked him to write the date, 1-11-91. He wrote 19 instead of 91. He did that in the ledger as well.
Oops.
Right.
Oh.
So somebody doesn't know how to write the fucking date, first of all. If you're going to be smart enough to try to do this shit, you should know how to write the year on the date, but that's okay. So he fucked up, and they were able to say, I mean, without a doubt, if you did that on the ledger and you did that on your handwriting sample, obviously it's you.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen a lot. So they were able to confirm that he purchased a pound of cyanide that day. A fucking pound.
Yeah.
It takes just, milligrams to kill somebody. He had a whole ass pound.
So effectively, he could have killed.
Thousands of people, I think. Yeah,
Wow.
at least hundreds.
Wow.
Yeah. So on August 23rd, 1992, Joseph Mailing is arrested at his home by federal agents, and the next day he was indicted. They were not fucking around. He is indicted on multiple charges, including product tampering, as well as charges of insurance fraud. So apparently, back in 1989, he had filed a false claim with his employer
Oh, Jesus.
for a burglary that took place in their home that never happened. And when they did one of their searches, the FBI found some of the items that had been listed on that claim as being stolen in the house
Oh, my.
in 1993. Right. So that's a federal crime.
This guy was a dumbass.
He really was. That's the thing. If for people being as smart as they think they are, you do stupid things. You do stupid
Criminal
things.
mastermind. What are you
Right.
talking about?
Listen to a true crime podcast before murdering anybody.
Yeah. Just figure out all the ways where you're going to get caught, essentially, if you're going to try it. I'm not endorsing crime, by the way.
Oh,
we don't endorse crime.
Me neither.
But don't be fucking stupid either. So, yes. So he was indicted on some of those charges as well. Another piece of evidence that was found, and probably one of the most damning, is that he was just this artistic person. He was writing a play about the character whose name is James Martin. So Joseph Mailing, James Martin, JM, poisons his wife. How the fuck are you going to chronicle your escapade of poisoning your wife and try to sell it as a screenplay?
Genius. Fucking genius.
Right? I just thought that was hilarious. So on the same day that Joseph is indicted by a federal judge, the families of Kathleen Danaker and Stanley McWhorter settled a lawsuit with Sudafed out of court. So they had sued, saying that the recall should have happened sooner, and they waited too long. As soon as they knew that Jennifer Mailing was poisoned, they should have recalled. The company stated that they were told that it was an isolated incident, that Jennifer's was an isolated incident, and so they didn't feel that there was enough evidence for a recall. So they settled that matter out of court. It's sealed. There's no public record, so nobody knows.
Undisclosed.
Yeah, nobody knows what that amounted to. Oddly enough, neither Jennifer nor Joseph tried to take part in that lawsuit. So I kind of find that just kind of a sign.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Oh, yeah.
She didn't want to believe that he had done it. He obviously knew he had done it. They had no business being a part of that lawsuit. So,
Yeah, but it also fits her pattern when she went back to him,
Right.
along with the domestic dispute. Oh, he didn't do anything. I think I was just overplaying it, but I think,
right.
Her going to her parents just fits the pattern of her, just this cycle.
Yeah.
It's sad. But.
No, it is sad. So in the early part of April 1993, after a few days of deliberation, a jury found Joseph Mailing guilty on all charges. That was 11 total charges. He was sentenced to life in prison. Jennifer, at that time, actually tested on his behalf. But her testimony, I read a lot of news articles. Her testimony was considered that of a broken and abused woman.
Yeah.
And she was just, had been molded to fit his narrative.
Yeah. That's what, like I said, it fits that pattern for her because she's just in that cycle.
Right. And it's really sad. I mean, my heart goes out to her. You don't want to think your husband's going to kill you.
Yeah.
Who wants to think that?
Yeah. Don't think that, honey.
Try it. Try me. God.
Bryce, I would be more scared of her.
That's all I had to say. And I've said it on previous podcasts. Check her Google search history, please.
Okay.
Okay, but that's not going to tell anything because I research all of this shit.
Are you writing a play?
You'll be the first to know, honey. Okay. Yeah, if I ever write a play. So Jennifer herself claimed that she was testifying because, quote, I hope my husband is innocent and that I married the right man, end quote. That is so sad to me.
It is. That's heartbreaking.
Yeah. I mean, I hope that my husband is innocent. You can't even say, my husband's innocent, and I know it.
Yeah.
You hope that he's innocent because who wants to think that the person that you love is trying to hurt you?
Yeah.
Nobody wants to think that. So a close friend and also his boss at Prudential were quoted by the media as claiming that they felt Joseph was innocent and it just wasn't possible that he was a murderer. On another note, there were a few of the strippers who regularly saw him at the strip clubs that took the stand and they actually testified against him.
Oh, thank God.
Right.
Thank God for the strippers.
Right? I'm just saying. He maintains his innocence to this day.
I don't know. Like, what would they testify?
Just that, he would show up and have hundreds of dollars with him to, not necessarily about anything, but there were also conversations that he had with them about how much he hated his wife and his wife was a nag and he, just didn't want to be with her anymore. And, defamation of character, essentially. They could provide kind of a narrative background.
I was like, yeah, he told me the whole plot.
Right.
Like, well, fuck, case solved.
I mean, let's just make sure, guys, piece of advice when you get with a stripper, don't do pillow talk.
Right. You don't have a life.
No.
Your life is right there, then with that stripper. There's no outside involvement of anybody.
But also thank you to all the strippers.
Yes.
You guys do God's work.
I don't know about that, but I mean, yes. No, sex workers and, people that do that, it's an industry that gets a lot of shit. And it also is an industry that is made up of propaganda. I don't know. That's a whole nother podcast. I feel for those people. It's not just women, it's men and women that do that. They get overlooked. They get shoved to the side. They're not treated as people, especially when crimes happen. Mm-hmm. Sex workers are disposable in the eyes of a lot of people, and they're just not treated as people, and it's a really sad fact.
I bet you there's at least like 3 strippers in DC right now with big, juicy secrets.
Oh, for sure.
Trust your strippers, everyone.
Right. Don't tell your strippers anything that you don't want to come out, because it will come out.
Well, it's cheaper than a psychologist.
Is it though?
Is it?
Yeah. I don't know about that.
Well, the good ones charge what, $100 an hour?
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like a psychologist, as long as you don't threaten them with harm, they're going to keep your secret. A stripper, no loyalty. Why? Because if you're going to pay me $100, this guy over here is going to pay me $100. Who the fuck do I have to be loyal to?
Yeah,
somebody's going to pay.
It's just cheaper.
I don't think it's cheaper, honey. I really don't. So to this day, like I said, he maintains his innocence. He tried to file appeals to that effect. I will add that eventually Jennifer is like, yeah, I'm done with you. She filed for the divorce and it was finalized.
Thank the Lord.
I know. It took a little while, but she's been able to get her life back on track. She stated in an interview that she doesn't want to be labeled as a victim. Because she was able to overcome the horrible events that almost took her life. So she doesn't want to be part of, considered a victim from this story. Yeah. I do believe that she is a victim, though. I applaud her for not wanting to be labeled as such, and by, maintaining that she's, happy with her life. Her life is on track and she's good, and that she was able to put him in the past and the event in the past. Obviously, the people's lives that he took is just that step further. That's what happened to her was horrible. That is just that next step further that is incredibly horrific to have happened. And she doesn't see herself in the same category with them. So I do understand where she's coming from, why she would say that. You're absolutely a victim though, honey. I know that you don't want to play the victim. but there's a difference between playing the victim and actually being a victim.
Yeah.
And I applaud you for getting, your everything back on track for yourself. And
We send our love.
yes, we definitely send our love.
If you listen to this.
I doubt it, but okay.
You never know.
You never know. One of the oddest things that I have ever heard throughout this entire fucking thing, and I feel like at this point we've been through a telenovela.
Yeah.
So in 1997, a convicted man named Monty Lee Bridges came forward while serving time at the same prison that Joseph was at, and he confessed to doing this crime, this product tampering.
What?
Right. He came forward, said that he had written down his confession, put it in a water bottle, and then buried it. Then he got convicted of some other crime. The problem with this man was mentally unstable. He had been not necessarily sharing a room with Joseph, but they were on the same block in the prison. So they did have interaction. And he, again, said that he had written down his confession and buried it. When they pulled up, authorities eventually found it, went on like this wild goose chase to find this bottle.
Jesus Christ.
Right. They found a bottle that had been buried that had a confession in it. Couldn't tell that it was his handwriting. It did not look like it had been buried for 3 years.
Oh.
It looked like there was no like mildew. There was no moisture. There was, it was intact. Everything was intact.
Yeah.
So it looked like it was freshly put there. And it probably was, he contacted somebody on the outside and said, hey, go do this.
Bury this.
Right. I don't know why the fuck you'd confess to somebody, something that you didn't do, though. I don't know. What were you going to get out of that?
Maybe they, I don't know.
There's no reason.
Who knows? I don't know. Maybe they were best friends.
I don't think so. From all indications, they don't really know each other. So it was really an odd thing to me. His confession lacked like anything substantial. There was multiple inconsistencies, and the judge that listened to it said it was so ridiculous. It was improbable. And she refused to allow a retrial for Joseph based on that. It was absolutely asinine for his lawyers to even suggest that he deserved a retrial based off of that. I was like, what? And then there's more, you know what I mean? Like it just kept, it kept going. It was just a weird thing. So what was the motive in all of this? Why did Joseph Mailing attempt to kill his wife?
He wanted out of the marriage.
Get a fucking divorce.
Right. No, it's the same story that we've heard over and over again. It's the fucking insurance money.
Oh, but I guess just any insurance money because he said he didn't have any.
Well, he's a fucking liar.
Oh.
He's a liar.
Oh.
Yeah, he was trying to make it seem like there's no way it could be me because I can tell you why. I work where the policy was come through and there's no accidental clause. Fuck you. So he was able to set up a policy through Prudential that amounted to over $700,000.
Oh my God.
On her in the event that she died accidentally. $700,000 in 1991. That's almost $1 million in today's money. Yeah. So, and more damning, it took effect literally the day before her poisoning.
Oh.
It came into effect at midnight. By that evening, she was in a coma.
Okay, I'm sorry, but wouldn't you, give it a year, Give it a little time.
Yeah, no. He was wasting no time. I mean, he had pre-plotted this because he bought this cyanide in January and it was early February. So he gave it a month before he did that, but he was probably waiting for that policy to become effective.
What an absolute prick.
Absolutely. So in the end, he needed what Stella Nichol needed, a death certificate that indicated foul play and an accidental death. And what his ego wouldn't let him see was that she was caught because she brought attention to the deaths that she caused.
Yeah.
It's the only reason that she was caught. She could have been happy to just walk away with that $70,000 from her husband Bruce's death, and nobody would have been the wiser.
Yeah,
Everybody had written that
it
off. Yeah, she pushed it. She, you know, called the medical examiner. She called his doctor.
Are you sure?
Right. So all to get an extra $100,000. Well, he did the same thing. He needed somebody to die and for it to be poison. So he had to have it known that he poisoned her. So it's really your ego, got the best of you, essentially. If he had not mentioned that in the ER room and the doctor been like, well, we have done everything else, let's pump her stomach.
He'd have been $700,000 richer.
Well, only if they had listed her death as an accident. Otherwise, he wouldn't have got probably, I think it was like $150,000.
Or he could have said it was the Sudafed.
I mean, wouldn't you do that?
Absolutely.
Wouldn't that be, I'm not going to tell you what was in the Sudafed, but hey, she took a Sudafed. Could that be it? Like, could the Sudafed have been laced with something? No, why you got to sit there and say, could have been cyanide?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't just find yourself upon cyanide every day,
Well, he says that he had just read that article in Reader's Digest, and that's why it was fresh on his mind. So, yeah, it was fresh on your mind because now you had the play-by-play of how to do this. That's why it was fresh in your mind. And it's just unbelievable, some people. I mean, ultimately, his ego was his downfall. So that's it. That concludes the copycat murders by poisoning. It's the most strangest series of events over a decade.
Yeah.
That I've ever fucking heard of.
He didn't even learn from it. Like,
no.
She got arrested.
Right.
She's still there. Is he still there?
He's still, life in prison.
They say where he was? Is he in Dublin too?
No, he actually got sent to a federal prison back east.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, he's not anywhere up here.
Why is it that poisoning always has to come with insurance money? Like, I feel like every single thing that I've ever seen about poisoning is involved with not suicide, with insurance money.
Oh, yeah, because of insurance money.
Yeah, it's
because you get that extra money payout if it's an accident. So, you accidentally ingest something.
Yes, I just don't know how cyanide is an accident. Because it's not.
Well, it's not. It's an intentional
available.
thing. Yeah.
I mean, it's not like 9 to 5 when what's her face puts rat
the rat poisoning
in the coffee,
right?
Dolly Parton isn't going to come save the day.
No.
Jesus.
Yeah, it's something, that's for sure. But there again, people have tried it and gotten away with it, and this is why we have these laws today. These laws are in place of product tampering, and it's a federal crime now because some fucking idiot thought it was going to be okay to kill their spouse and try to get some insurance money. And I don't know. I feel like he should have learned from Stella Nichols.
Oh, absolutely.
But he also, I mean, if you think back to the 82 murders, nobody's been charged.
Yeah, but Reader's Digest
told
you how she
you.
was caught. Like, what a dumbass.
I mean, if you can't believe what Reader's Digest says, who can you believe anymore?
I know,
right? All right, so we have our winner for the $50 Amazon gift card to announce. Who is it? Drum roll.
Okay, let's see.
Can you hear that? I'm clapping.
Clap. Okay, hold on, I'm trying to get these little papers. Okay, so someone by the name of Jor23 Sunshine is our winner.
Yay! Congrats.
Yay.
Congrats. Thank you for supporting our crazy idea to have this true crime podcast and for listening. And we will be in contact over Instagram and figure out where to send that gift card to you.
Or if you're listening, please just DM us and we'll get in touch with you.
And also, thank you for giving me the opportunity to be Vanna White. I've always wanted to do that.
I feel like we should have downloaded a Vanna White, like the noise when she touches the letters and it's like that little ding.
I just wish I could have my own yarn line and
That's what you want out of all
Just
this?
be,
I thought it was like the Wheel of
fabulous.
Fortune thing.
Yes,
Oh.
yes, that's included. It's included. She's famous enough to have her own yarn, Jessica.
Yeah. No, she is. Yes.
Mom uses it all the time.
I use it all the time too. Okay, I didn't realize that you were more excited about the possibility of a line of yarn
Absolutely.
than picking the. Okay. Okay. I mean, if that's what does it for you, it's cool. It's fine. Her yarn is great yarn. It's good. Goodbye.
It's
It
what
works.
I want my face on yarn. What
Okay.
can I say?
All right.
Alpaca yarn.
Alpaca yarn. I don't want none of that cheap shit.
No, hell no.
Hell no. All right. As always, we greatly appreciate everyone listening and supporting us. You can catch us on all the listening platforms, our website, of course, whathappensinthe.woods.com, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And we'll be at the Discord at 8 p.m. Until next time, please be kind to one another and stay out of the goddamn woods.
Stay out of the woods.
Bye.
Bye.
Toodaloo, buckaroo.